I have just finished having the most amazing conversation with Adam Wallace. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He sold over 2 million copies of his books. He's a kids author, and he's just started this course helping other kids authors to make a living from what they're doing, helping with school visits, how to make money with that. And we literally talked about everything. So if you want to know how to make money from being a kids author and from doing school visits, even how to do school visits, want to know the pitfalls, the ins and outs, all that, watch this. Pour a wine, cup of coffee, whatever it's going to be, and let's get to know Adam Wallace. Adam Wallace, thank you so much for joining me on my chat show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Josh. It's great to be here. Really excited to chat to you.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this chat, especially a lot of kids authors and a lot of writers, because we're going to go into the territory that every writer dreams of, is actually making a living from your writing. And
you actually can make a living?
I know. Well, apparently, this is what I want to talk to you about. Okay. Adam, you're actually doing it. This is your full-time gig as a kids author. Yep. How did you do it? I know I've jumped in right into the deep end. Well, maybe I'm picking a bit later on, but how did you do it?
To be honest, a lot of it at the start was just doing the grind and doing the slog. I self-published initially because I couldn't get picked up by a publisher, which in the end I actually think was a bit of a blessing in a way. I think if I had been picked up straight away, it would have been a totally different path. So realizing that I had to do it myself, I self-published, I went out to markets, I tried to get school visits as much as I could, and just sold the books by hand to start with. And that gave me, I don't know if I could, well, a living of sorts. I was still engineering part-time as well at that time. But the books started building up, and I got more school visits and did more markets. And yeah, it's nice for that cash flow, especially when you're starting out. Because I mean, when you get published traditionally or any other way, it's great, you get the advance, but in terms of royalties, you are going to be waiting a period of time, so you don't get that instant cash flow. Whereas doing it yourself, getting the books out there, selling the books at a market, you sell the book for $15, you get $15. That's just that sort of transaction. So I did that for a while, and then partnership published, and then flat fee published, and then eventually I started writing in 1999 and got my first traditional publishing gig in about 2014. So it was 15 years later. Wow. But I'd sort of built up.
But you would have learned a lot of experience in the whole publishing game, self-publishing game, by doing that. And I think that's
totally.
A lot of people, they sort of have this grandiose idea of just going straight for a traditional publisher, sitting back, waiting for the royalty checks to come in. When really that is rarer than normal. So, but the boots on the ground, the hard yards that you've done, that all culminated in achieving the traditional publishing thing in the end. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I built up that audience, and I built up and I had a couple of authors tell me along the way, just A, get your writing as good as you can, and B, get the schools and the kids on board. And that's the key. Then when you do eventually bring out a particular book, or whether it's through a traditional publisher or your own, and you've built up that audience, suddenly they're there. And that's when, and for me, that's what happened. The self-publishing created a really nice base income. And then when the traditional publishing kicked in, it wasn't the first or the second or the third or the fourth book, but then one kicked in down the track. And yeah, it all kind of builds on itself. And I think one of the good things I learned was to build up different streams of income as well. So they talk a lot in shares. You don't want to just buy everything in computers, because if computers crash, you got nothing. You want to sort of diversify a bit. So I found that as well, doing the schools, doing the markets. I was able to pick up some distributors for my self-published books along the way, and doing flat fee and partnership, and like having all these different things. If one was a bit down, the others sort of held it up. And that was really important along the way as well.
So just covering all the bases. But I think what key is consistency, being out there and actually on the ground, doing it, putting yourself out there. And
absolutely,
and showing up for yourself and for your writing and for your books. Now tell me, when was the transition when you felt, okay, I'm now earning enough from writing that I can let go of my engineering job? Because I'm sure your engineering job was quite well paid.
It was. It
Was it
was.
okay?
It was. It was okay. It was decent. I mean, I could. It was an income that I could have just lived off that and been fine. And it wasn't quite when I'd overtaken it. I was on the way and seeing it getting close to that with the books, and I thought this is going to pass it soon enough. And what I'm getting now, and I was lucky. We at that stage didn't have a mortgage, didn't have kids. My wife was working and earning, so there wasn't a lot of pressure on.
Oh, okay. So that can change things slightly, but still, it's
Made
taken
it easier.
courage.
Absolutely, because it was certainly a drop. Like once I stopped the engineering and went back, it was an immediate drop of my engineering wage was gone, and so suddenly it was whatever it was at that time, 40, 50 grand or something, and just wasn't there anymore. And so, and I'm very determined. Like we in my marriage we kept our money separate, but we went halves on everything. So no matter what she was earning, I still had to carry my half of it. So it was good. But then what I found was as soon as I stopped the engineering, suddenly I was doing maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 school visits a year at that stage. As soon as I stopped the engineering and the school went, "Can you visit?" I went, "Yes." And
You had the
suddenly
time.
I went up to 20 school visits the next year and then to 30, to 40. And so suddenly I had this time. I had more time to write, more markets I could do, more schools I could do. And so it just opened up doors and opportunities that I had to say no to before because I was doing the other job, which was great to have both, but it just meant now the books could be the main focus. And I had a base that was good enough, could build off that.
So, because we're going to talk very shortly about the course, the online course that you've developed for writers and kids authors to about school visits and about how to make a living. We'll get to that in a minute, but because I know you got some really good pointers and tips in there, and you've kindly given me access to the course, and I quickly went through, made a whole lot of bunch of notes, and got I'm going to remember that one, got to do that one, got to do that one. What you talk about the old struggling artist thing, and you came up with a term that I absolutely love, which is the abundant artist. Talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's certainly when I was starting out, a lot of people would say to me, "You can't make a living as a children's book author in Australia, or pretty much at all." And
I've
almost
heard that countless times as well.
yeah. And they say, "Don't give up your day job," all that sort of thing. And I would sort of come back with, "Well, what about Andy Griffiths? He's doing all right." They go, "Oh, yeah, but that's Andy Griffiths." But Andy Griffiths started out selling self-published books at a market for $1 or something. And so he's done it all. He did the grind. He was doing schools. He told me one time he did like 3 years of schools, 10 months a year, 5 days a week. And he was out there doing the legwork. So he'd done it all before he was Andy Griffiths. He was Andy Griffiths. Like he was out there. So yeah, so I just think that struggling artist, it's almost seen as a bit of a badge of honor in a way. It is this, "Oh, I'm doing it because I love it. I don't need to make money. I'm not going to sell out," all that sort of stuff.
I have a motto, Adam. I have a motto. Show me the money.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. We can do all this for the love until the cows come home, but we still have to put food on the table. We have to pay the mortgage. These are the realities of being a writer and being an author. And
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to do all this sort of stuff just for love. And I think this whole struggling artist syndrome, which is so negative and so detrimental to each other and ourselves, why can't we lift each other up, boost each other up and say, "Hey, no, give it a go. What are you doing? How are you?" And that's what you're doing. Through this course you're created, you're actually encouraging people to know, let's look at this differently. What else can you get out of it? So where did you actually come up with the abundant artist thing? So I think that's great. You should put it up on your wall somewhere. I'll put it up on my wall.
I should. I mean, look, I do a lot of self-improvement, mindset, goal setting, manifestation, all of that. And you just do realize that abundance doesn't have to be this, and abundance doesn't have to just be money either. Abundance can be, earning an income from your work means you have more time to write, so you can have abundance of time, or more time with your family, or more time doing what you enjoy. And so I just think that, and for me as well, I think part of it is, yes, I want to make a lot of money out of my writing, but part of that is I want to make a lot of money because that means my books are selling, and that means kids are reading my books and kids are getting excited about reading. And the more that happens, and we're, as writers, we're reimbursed for that. So we should be like, if a plumber does a million jobs, he's going to get paid for a million jobs. Like, this is our passion and our love, but it's our career as well. And so you can do it for love, but still have the enjoyment and rewards as well, I think.
And I think for a lot of people who are just starting out in this field, and I suppose I've been only doing this for about 4 or 5 years now, and I would consider myself just starting out because there is so much to learn. And there's so many other people who have paved the way, like you and all the other great authors and illustrators out there who have been doing it for years and years and years and done the hard yards. And there is so much to learn. But I think for the ones who are just starting out now, it's like, do I do something for free? Do I do a school's asked me to do it, and to come and do a talk about my new book, and they said, oh, we don't have a budget, maybe I'll just just do it for free. And what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because when I started out, I did do school visits for free, and I had a couple of reasons for that. One was just to build up experience because I had no experience talking in front of kids. And the first one I went to was my grade 6 teacher, who was at that time then a principal of another school, and she got me out to talk at this thing. And there was a few schools were there, and I think there's a couple hundred kids or so. There's just little country schools. And she's like, come and do it. And I did a talk, and I was petrified. I was sweating. I had a lump in my throat. I was just so nervous. And so then I said, I've just got to do more of this. I have to, because I'm naturally quite shy and find.
I think a lot of us are. We're actually sort of fairly. That's why we're writers. We want to sit and hide in a corner and write or draw or something like that.
Exactly. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And now I find I can be in front of 700, 1,000 kids, and not even like you get a little bit of that feeling, but you just do it. And it's so different. So for me, I did have a couple of authors say that I shouldn't do it for free, that it's kind of undermining other authors who are getting paid. And I totally get that as well. But at the same time, for me, trying to build a name and build my experience, I just thought, well, if I'm charging $700, $600, whatever, so I'm charging $600 and a known author is charging $600, they're going to go for the known author, which I would as well. You go for what you know if you're getting this price. So I thought it means they've got a budget to be able to see other people still as well, but it gives me experience. So, and I was doing sales. So that's the other difference as well, is I was doing order forms and selling my self-published books. So I still was able to generate some income from it anyway. Now I still do free visits for another reason, in that if I've been to a school and they've paid me to go and it was real and I did good sales and it was a good visit, the following year I might say, I've got a new book, I'd love to come and do a launch at your school. It'll be a free day as long as I can sell the books, and it'll give the kids a chance to buy it. So I do
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. But they've already paid me to go, and it also means I can get the sales out there, and I know there's going to be good sales because I've been there before. So it's a bit of a strategic, and that's just sort of 10, 15 schools a year I do that. And I found that to be super, super valuable. So I don't know, it kind of goes both ways. I think to definitely get paid for what we do, but I think there are times, especially, even if it's just saying to a friend who's a teacher, can I come out and do a couple of sessions at your school and just get some practice? And they'd be totally up for that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea to get that practice. Yeah, do it for free. But it's still at the same time, I think you can say, well, normal rates are, the Australian Society of Author rates are this, this, and this, but I'll do it for free because I need the practice and I really appreciate it. And if you give me feedback and that sort of thing. I mean, when I first did my school visits, I got dumped in the deep end because I got booked to do a festival, and I was I had to do about maybe, I think it was about 20 schools in a week or something. And I had never done a school incursion. So my neighbour, who luckily was a school teacher at the local primary school, she said, right, Josh, okay, I'm going to drop you in the deep end. We're going to do 6 sessions back to back, one after the other, and you're going to fire. And I went,
wow.
And you know what? I did it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was like, normally you wouldn't do 6 sessions in a row or in one day, but that's how you learn. You just baptism of fire. And you go, okay, well, I did that well. I didn't do that very well. I'll change it next time, yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
And I did that for free. And that launched me. So therefore I was able to do the festival gigs with confidence and charge the rate I was going to charge.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I saw a great thing with Dave Chappelle the other day, and he was talking about, people say to him, what happens if you tell a joke and no one laughs? And he's like, no one laughs. Like,
Don't tell the joke again.
you don't tell it. You learn from it exactly. You go to the next one. You still get paid the same. You don't die. And same with doing school visits. It's getting out there, and we're going to do good ones. We're going to do terrible ones, and you just sort of pick it. And as you do more, you work out what works and what doesn't, and you sort of put up your routine as such with it.
So
And,
look, I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. I know every author, every kid's author sitting here watching this. How do you get more school bookings? I know there's the, you can have an agent, booking agency and all that sort of stuff. And I know you can, it's through recommendations that, a library might go, oh, look, I know this person, yada, yada, yada. But really, if you want to get as many as what you're doing, or if you want to at least get 1 or 2 a week, and look, I'm going to take into consideration COVID here, and a lot of schools are in lockdown. You can't go into a school, but I'm going to swap that for a Zoom visit, for a virtual visit.
Okay.
So, Adam Wallace, how do we get more school visits?
Do I get $1 million for answering this $1 million question? It's a tough one. It's a tricky one. And again,
what's worked for you?
I tried a lot of different things, and sort of, I'll be very brief. I go over them all sort of in the course as well. But like I drove out, I would mark back in the days when I had a Melways, I would mark on the Melways all these schools, and I would drive out, and I would take in some books, and I'd say, I'd love to leave some books for the library. Can I chat to the librarian? And as I'm chatting, school visits would come up, and that would be one way. That was quite time consuming.
Wow, you actually drove out to every school.
I did it. I went out to about 100, over 100 all up. So I'd do like sort of 5 a day, and did like.
What was your conversion rate?
It was interesting in terms of the sales. I reckon I've got the stats on my computer somewhere. It was about 40 to 50% bought at least a book. Some bought packs of books. And in terms of school visits, I think I got about 10 or 11 out of that, which 10%'s not terrible, really. So it was time consuming, but it also, I found at that time that face-to-face was really important. And so seeing the kids face-to-face doing the visits was important, but also actually talking to the librarian. So it's not just a package arriving in the mail. I did do that as well, which also helps. So I would do each term.
I'm going to look at the detail here. How did you get past the gatekeeper at the school? Because these are the little nitty gritties. Because Tim Ferriss was always good at asking these questions. So how did you?
I love it.
So you drive up to the school, you open the admin door, you walk in, you've got your bundle of books. What happens?
I would just say, hi, I'm Adam Wallace. I'm a local author. Would I be able to chat to the librarian in terms of seeing if they'd like to get some books for the library? And that was
hold on 1 second. Mrs. Crabapple, Mrs. Crabapple, there's someone here at reception to see you. He looks like an author.
Looks like an author. He's got a funny beard. She'll be here soon. Yeah, that worked. And sometimes if they weren't there, I would just leave the books and say, I'll come back in a couple of days. Even the librarian, I'd say, you don't have to decide now. I'll come back in a couple of days and pick them up. If you don't want them, that's fine. And so there'd sort of always be no pressure. And and most people in reception, because I wasn't asking them for anything, all I had to do was call the librarian. They were fine with it. And sometimes I'd end up speaking to the vice principal or the principal, and it would depend on the school. Some schools at that stage would just say, we don't have a library. A lot of libraries are being closed down in schools. We have a library, we don't have a librarian. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. So, especially knowing some librarians who are just amazing in what they bring to a school. I've known some schools where they say, the teachers can help the kids borrow the books. And it's like, that's not all it is.
It's about understanding the books, what's good for the different ages, what things they're going through. Anyway, we could talk about librarians forever.
Yeah, that could be another.
Love you, librarians. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
So you traveled around, and then what else did you do?
I did mail outs. I would mail out one of my books and a flyer and a letter, and then I would follow that up with an email and sometimes a call as well. And so I would do about 30 schools a term, which meant I was hitting.
So you had a year plan, like for the term 1, you'll pick 30 schools in an area, and you would send out the book plus a letter, flyer. And what was your conversion rate from that?
That varied a lot. And it varied a lot. It sort of depended on the time of year a little bit as well. Like I found sending out in 3rd term, the conversion rate would be basically 0 because everyone's got book week and they've got this and that. There's so much going on that it was hopeless. 4th term, budgets are closing or budgets are closed
Yep.
for the year. So what I would do in fourth, what I started doing, because I was getting nothing, is I would say, here's a voucher. If you book me for whatever the following 2021, then I'll give you $50 off the booking fee or something like that. So I found that worked as well. But I mean, it wasn't huge. It was probably between sort of 5 and 10% maybe. But even that I found, and it would vary, as I say, some terms it would be just zero. I'd send out 30 things and wouldn't even get a reply. So, but sometimes I would, and it also got a book into each school because I was sending out a book. So that meant that suddenly there was a bit of ELR. There was potential there as well.
Yes. We'll talk about ELR and PLR and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I did that. I did an email out one time, which was a disaster. I emailed 100 and something schools. It took me ages, and I got one response that said, "We'll think about it for next year." And I went, "That's it. Never do that again." So,
my experience with email is, because I'm naturally, I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I hate using the phone, like ringing up people, cold calling, feel like a sales rep or something. I did the email thing, did the whole, get the email address. But most of the email addresses were like admin. And I know when you go to the Gatekeeper at a primary school, there's Mrs. Carbuncle there with the big hair up there at the typewriter. And then all these emails come in, and then half of them go to the spam inbox or something like that. And then half of them have to be, and like, how do you then move that on? So I did, the subject line, attention to the librarian or whatever.
Yeah, great.
And whether they got through or not, because I think I would pick a certain town or a region, send them off, and maybe one. I think I got one booking. I think, but email is so dodgy. It's so easy to just hit delete, or it goes to the wrong person. Whereas I think the physical book idea, I think, works. I think that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, that was good. And one thing I found worked well, I would generally go to the website and just look up the library. Because a lot of the times I have the staff on there, and I'd look up the librarian or the English coordinator or something. For one, we actually rang up and said, "I'd love to do this. Who should I direct it to?" And they gave me a name, and that got a really good response rate. But wasn't something I did every term because I was lazy. Like, it actually worked really well, but I just couldn't be bothered half the time. So it's good. What I found was actually almost the best conversion rate as such was doing the markets and having a stall at a market and selling the books to the kids and doing it. So generating income from there anyway. I would meet so many teachers and so many librarians and principals and families who would say, "Do you do," like, they would just ask, they'd say, "Oh, do you do school visits?" I'd have my flyer there. I'd give them a book and say, "Here's one for the school." That was an amazing conversion rate. That was really good. And other thing that was great was going to like an education trade show. So we got a couple here in Melbourne, and I know they're around Australia, and they're expensive. Like, the one I did was 3 days or 2.5 days, and I think it cost almost a couple of grand. It was about $1,800. But in saying that, though, I made back that money in sales, because most people came by would buy books for the library, and I think I got three visits, which at that stage I was charging about $500 a day. So that almost made it back again. One of the visits, I ended up going back 7-8 years in a row, something like that. So it made its money back.
There's long-term relationship then formed from that,
Absolutely. So the trade shows are really good, because markets are great, but it's anyone's there. And, even if you're selling your books, there might be, everyone's got a pram and a baby, and you've got a book for 12-year-olds or something like that. So it's not necessarily that target market. But an education trade show, it's just teachers and
they're there they're looking for new material, new content to share. I mean, I found that with markets. I started to do markets a few years ago, and you have this strange feeling like, am I lowering myself to go to the markets? And you have to just swallow your ego and go, no, do I want to make money from being a writer? Do I want to create this as a living? Do I want to meet my readers? Do I want to talk to parents? Then go to markets. And I did that. And you would spend half an hour setting up, making a table all nice and, making it all look pretty, not like it's some dodgy thing. And I remember one year, it was like a Christmas market type thing. I sold out of all my books within about half an hour.
Amazing. And isn't it the biggest rush when that happens?
It is so great. And then you're standing there for another 2 hours with nothing to sell, except you had business cards to hand out. Here, take a card. But I learned quickly, because people would come up and say, do you do school visits? And I'll go, I do, but I didn't have any information or a flyer. So the
Yep.
year after, I printed off all these flyers and gave them out. I mean, nothing really came of it that I know of, but it's a great idea. Go fully prepared, flyers, business cards, books, everything, because that's your author brand that you're actually taking out and putting it on the side of the road or in this market, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, having that face to face, and sometimes you don't know. I've had school visits where someone's emailed me and said, I met you at a market 5 years ago. I've kept your card and we've never had the budget, but now you have. And so
Wow. See, you
it
just never know
can
how
pay
it
off.
works.
Yeah, it can buff down the track. Sometimes sometimes it'll be the next day you'll get a call or an email. And so it can really vary. But either way, it's just, I think just getting in people's consciousness and even the kids at markets, I don't know if you've had this, but they'll come back to see you the following market or the following year, and they'll say, have you got a new book? Have you got a new book? And it's like, takes a little bit longer than 1 month. It's coming, don't worry. So, yeah, but it's great. So, and
I found kids in the one day, in the morning, they would come up and flick through the book and their parents would go, come along, come along, come along.
Yeah.
And then a couple of hours later, the kid rushes back without the parents there and just flick, 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 have a look through again.
Yes.
It's so cute. Then the parents
great.
come
And
back and I think you might want to buy a book for your child.
Yeah. I think they might like this one. And especially at markets, one thing I found is kids of the age that I initially aimed my books at, the first ones I have were aimed at 9 to 12-year-old kids. And there's not a lot of markets for that age child a lot of times. Like, especially if it's a craft market, there's lots of things for younger kids and baby things, and there's not as much. And so when they see something that's aimed at them, they get really excited, and they get excited about books. And it's lovely to see kids just going, Mum, look, a book. And they just get so excited. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, okay, so markets, school visits. I mean, I don't want to give everything away. I don't want to give all your secrets away in this episode, because the whole idea is for people to get your course. But what other avenues have you found of income stream? I'm gonna interrupt you there.
The jury will disregard the question.
Disregard it. Let's start again.
Okay.
Do you now, with school visits, do you get approached, or do you still have to put the word out there?
So now I'm not doing the mail outs anymore as much. I've got 3 agents for sort of literary school visits, but I find with that, I probably get, well, again, this year is out of the ordinary, but going from last year, I think I had about 55, 60 visits last year. And I think one agent got me one got me 3 or 4, and one got me about 20. And then I got the rest myself. And
who got you the 20? Can you name names?
Yeah, sure. That was Lamont Books.
Oh, okay. They're in Melbourne?
Yeah, they're in Melbourne, and they're a school distributor, and they do standing orders. They did do a book club, but I think they're not doing it anymore. But they do lots of distribution into schools, and it was just, I think last year was the first year they started up. So yes, they've got sort of a very small stable of authors and illustrators, and they have someone dedicated to just getting visits and working.
And so obviously you nurtured that relationship with them, though.
Yeah, and they've been fantastic, and that was another stream of income I found that was not even really on my radar as such, where I had self-published and I was doing all this stuff in the schools, and a friend of mine, Michael Wagner, who had self-published as well, he sort of looked up Lamont Books, and he's like, well, I've contacted them and I'm going to go chat to them. Do you want to come along? So I said, sure. So I went along, and that was so fantastic. It's a family-run business, and they chatted to us. They looked at our books, and they said, yeah, well, when you got a new book, send it in. We'll have a look at it. And they've consistently taken my books to put in the standing order, and they take a 70% discount, but it's a firm sale. So they take 300 books, and it's a $15 book. You get $4.50 a book.
But they're buying directly from you, though, aren't they? This is your self-published books?
Yep. Exactly. So you get the $4.50 comes in, and you keep the $4.50, and that will often pay for printing or pay up towards an illustrator. So it's really good. And then through building up that relationship with them, when they started up, they asked if I was interested in joining up, and did that. So yes, they've been really good. And then a lot of the rest of it is a bit word of mouth, or because I find as well that teachers, as you were saying, like if you go to a school, and that's nothing, like I got told very early on by Andy Griffiths, he said, just get your work as good as you can possibly get it. That is the key. And I think it's the same, not just with your writing, but with your presentations. And building it up, and you do a really good visit, a teacher or librarian there is going to tell a friend who's a teacher, or if they've got a librarian network, they'll tell them, and it kind of starts to snowball a little bit from that. I
So
think.
what makes a good school presentation?
Wow, that's the $1 trillion question. I think, to be honest, the biggest thing is being yourself. It's being authentic with the kids is going to create a better connection with them. If you are a quiet, reserved person and you'd love to just sit and chat to the kids, but you've seen other people bouncing around and being a bit crazy, and you think you should do that, it creates a distance, I think. And so I think just that genuine, however you connect with people or with kids, it's about that. And if you can connect with them, and if it's about, I had a great thing we were talking just before it came on about Tim Ferriss and Derek Sivers. And one thing Derek Sivers says is he used to work in a circus, and he improved when he realized he'd been worried about looking cool and being awesome and doing this, which we do when we're performing. And as soon as he realized it was about the audience and giving them the best show, he said everything changed. I think it's the same if we go in with this idea of entertaining or inspiring or getting the kids excited about reading. Suddenly that becomes a whole different presentation. If you're like, I want to be funny and I want to be this and that. If it's about the kids, I think that's one of the big keys I've found in just changing the energy a little bit in the presentations.
I totally agree, because it's like I've noticed it within myself. You know when you roll up to a school and you find you get lost and you can't find the admin building, and you get all stressed and you're running about 5 minutes late, and you get there, and then the receptionist takes you over to the library, and you get set up, and you're busy getting set up, but you still have the little nerves. I mean, I've done it countless of times, but you still get little nerves. And then once the kids come in, they start to come in. I mean, what I do, I've got a little secret that I do, is that I own the room. Before the kids come in, I'm there, and I start pacing, and I feel myself being part of that room, because this is my show. And then when the kids come in, I start interacting with them straight away. And so I'm owning them. I've got their attention. They know who I am. And the whole energy, I change. And I'm about delivering to them, to making sure that they're getting the best product. They're entertained, they're enjoyed, they get the messages, and they walk out going, wow, that was amazing. And all the teachers go, oh, that was brilliant. So it's not about me. I mean, I get anxious and I get nervous, but as soon as I'm on, I switch, and it's all about them. Yes. And that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key things you said as well is that initial thing when they're coming in, having that sort of little icebreaker, whatever it is, whether it's just talking to them, whether it's people who juggle as the kids come in, or who are drawing on the board, or whatever it is, they just go, oh, okay. This is something different. This is interesting. And they actually are switched on at the start, and they'll come along with you. If you do have that energy, and if you are owning that space in your way, whatever that way is, the kids they'll come along. They get sort of swept up in it. Not every kid. Still get the kids who just aren't going to be interested or don't like your books, because that's just going to happen. Yeah, exactly. And one of the biggest things I had was, if there was a kid looking bored or a bit noisy, I was just massively right. I'm going to get you laughing. I'm going to make you come on board no matter what I do. And I realized after a few times doing this that I'm focusing on this one or two kids. I'm ignoring like 30 other kids who would love it. And I'm like, forget that kid.
I know.
Just focus on the kids who like it.
Yeah. No, I mean, mind you, I would actually stare at them. If one of them was sort of talking or, whatever, I'll just go.
Give them the stare.
Give them the stare.
I love it.
But to break, as my icebreaker, I'm sure every author's got their own icebreaker. And as the ones that sit down the front first, I said, no, I won't bite, yada, yada, yada. And I asked them, what have they had for morning tea, or what are they having for lunch?
Yeah.
And they get them talking about food and that sort of thing. And I go, what are you having? What are you having? And I go, oh, yuck, that sounds gross. And then I talk about what I'm going to have for lunch. And then that's a nice little icebreaker.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, these kids are happy to chat. And if you have given them that chance to talk to you, they love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we've spoken about school visits. What other avenues of income are there?
Quite a few. So obviously through getting your books published in traditional ways, you can get advances and royalties through there. And I've done quite a bit of flat fee publishing. So flat fee publishing is where... Yeah. So basically what it is you'll get So, and often, well, in my case, it's always been a publisher I've met, or they've come to me and saying, we've got this particular book we want written. Do you want to write it? We'll give you whatever the fee is, and it's varied, but let's say $1,000.
Okay.
But that's it. So what they're doing is basically they'll pay you to buy the copyright of the story.
Yep.
Which means that, and it can be different in different situations, but basically if they, no matter how many they sell, you've got your $1,000. That's it. You don't get royalties or any of that sort of thing. So it's just
a lot of illustrators sometimes do that, don't they?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. And sort of the big mass trade publishers like Hinkler Books, all my stuff for them was flat fee. And the ones that have quite a low margin, because they're selling so many at a lower price, they just don't have that royalty built into that margin. So yeah, so you get a flat fee. And for me, it's I mean, it can work for and against you. I've had one series where I got paid $1,000 for each book, and I think I ended up doing about 12 or 13 books or something like that. And I've got my $18,000 or whatever it is Australian, and they've sold 1.5 million copies. So there would have been some nice royalties there.
But you know what? It looks good when you say it on your website. 1.5 million copies sold, because it's and that's one of the other things I found, using every single little bit of good news to sell yourself and to sell your books. And a lot of people think, I'm just big noting myself, or it's my ego. No, I think we have to use those sort of things. Do you agree?
Yeah. And celebrate them as well.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go, that was great, and then move on to the next thing, because you have to do this and this and this. But to celebrate those things, and it's such a beautiful, supportive community that people they're happy for you and they celebrate with you. So yeah, it's really nice. And again, it is, even going on from that, it's how you look at it. You can look at it as and we have that, you have that sort of tall poppy thing as well, and you don't want to be that tall poppy. But it's how you look at it. And even with the flat fee stuff, you can look at it saying, I should have got royalties. But going in, you're not going to get royalties. So, But also you can look at it and say, well, in the example, this one, they've sold 1.5 million copies. They've advertised me. They've paid me to advertise my name and my books to 1.5 million people, which will then, it's going to lead to other things. So they're basically doing your marketing for you.
Exactly.
Even though you've only got a flat fee. So it's how you look at it.
You don't know the result of that. Who spoke to who else sees it, who notices it, and then they come back to you, and then you get a deal about something else. You just don't know how the universe works. You just got to be open to this stuff, don't you?
Absolutely. And have that open, like it's similar to the struggling artist. If you're continually saying you can't make money as a kids book, you won't. That's what I mean. And if you say, well, I should have got more for this, and have that sort of negative attitude towards it, I think it won't necessarily lead to other things. I mean, it can, but it's just the energy and how much you enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy it as much if you're feeling grumpy about it. So I just want to enjoy the process. And we're getting to write.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. And I recently, I had this sort of epiphany. I had a grant application on my desk, so I'm building a course for kids.
Yeah, cool.
I had a publishing contract ready to be signed, and I had a whole stack of books that I was going to be posting off. And I was just going, I don't feel, something wasn't right. And I looked at all this stuff around me, and I'm going, my dream is to be a full-time writer. Okay. But was I actually showing up to be that full-time writer? And I'm looking at this, I'm going, hell, it's already here. It's turned up. And I'm just not even here to acknowledge it and to celebrate it and to rejoice in it. So I had that really big shift of mindset. And now it's like, I'm actually doing it. What am I whinging about? What am I complaining about? Life's fantastic. You're doing it. And I think that's sometimes success or that sort of, it creeps up. I'm sure you've found that you just find yourself in this position where you go, whoa, it's happening. It is happening. I can do it. I've actually made it happen.
Yeah. And it does sneak up on you. And every now and then you'll be, and especially when you're in it and you are working this and this and this, and suddenly if you do, let's say you come up for air and you take a breath and you go, oh, I did quit engineering and I am income and I did just get it published. Like and that's why I think we've got to celebrate these things as well, because they can soon pass, especially when you're trying and focusing on making it a career, whatever it is, that we need the time to celebrate it and enjoy it as well. So yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
And I think acknowledging what you said before, the tall poppy thing, people, there's an unwritten thing. I'm sure I'm gonna go into controversial area here with writers and kids authors,
Uh-oh.
is jealousy.
Yep.
It is so easy. I get it. I see someone else's
Hmm.
success and I feel that little pang. Why couldn't that have been me? And then you've
Yeah,
got to go,
totally.
hang on. What would I want them for me? I want them to celebrate me. So I'm going to switch it around, change my energy. Instead of being jealous, I'll go, good on them, because I want to see them succeed, because I want them to be happy when I succeed. If we all lift each other up and encourage each other, I think that's everyone wins.
Absolutely. And the more, because I had a similar thing when I wasn't getting contracts, and you'd look on Facebook and I was like, sign another contract, sign. And you're like, you go, oh, that's great. And you would be genuinely happy, but you would get that little pang. But I think in the end as well, the more people who are succeeding with kids' books and the more books that are out there, the more excitement there is around books for kids. It's gonna help us all anyway. And I saw a lovely talk. It was a round table thing with some comedians, and Jim Carrey was one of them, and Sacha Baron Cohen, and Jim Carrey had invited Sacha Baron Cohen over, and he was talking about how when you see someone else doing well, you do have that choice of, you can be jealous of them, or you can be sort of happy for them and learn from them. And he's like, you do get a little pang. You can't, that's just a natural
It's
instinct.
natural, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I so I'm totally going everywhere, but I was talking to a friend last night who said one thing she'd heard, which she really liked, was that first response is just an instinct and it's natural and it's human. But then the second response is your values. And that's when you sort of had time to go, oh, okay, at that pain, now how do I really feel and how do I want to react to it? And as Jim Carrey said, he's like, you can be jealous or you can go, right, someone else is coming up. And that feeling of, you can be jealous because you had that sort of spot and someone else is taking that spot, in a way. But you can go, well, what are they doing what are they doing to get there that I can learn from? And so and that's part of the reason of doing these courses, is going, well, I've learned all these things over 15 years. Maybe it can shorten the journey for people. They can go, well, what did he do to get to that point? And it can just be laid out, and they can do it and try it. And not everything's going to work, but it just gives a little blueprint of how it's possible.
And I think that's great, being able to, because so many people come into this business and there are so many unknowns. There's so many, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And sure, a lot of people are willing to share, but if you don't ask, you don't know. And some people, and it's like, and who can you ask? And, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So by creating a course where you've put all your knowledge and you've downloaded it, put it in this course for school visits, how to create them, how to make money from them, also how to make a living out of writing. I think you've even got a course in there on how to overcome writer's block as well. And you got a zombie, you got a zombie thing in there as well.
Yeah, so there's a little free writer's block one as well. And then I did a few years ago, I did a course based around zombies. And so again,
what do you mean a course on zombies? Like, is this like a uni degree, 3 years on how to study zombies?
It should be, Josh. It should be.
I must be the only. I find zombies so boring. I don't know why.
Really?
Because they just got no brains. And
This is true. But Zombieland is one of my favorite movies. It's hilarious. But what I found is I do love all that personal development, mindset, self-improvement. I've been to, Tony Robbins' seminar and walked on hot coals and done all that stuff, and I love it. And I always wanted to do something in that way for kids and for adults as well. And it was actually at the Tony Robbins conference, I think, and just had this, again, this was my sort of epiphany going, oh, it can be entertaining, because he's amazing the way he entertains and talks everything. And so I just was looking at the things that I love, and zombies was something that I, like zombie movies and things. And I just went, well, what are the things they talk about in all this personal improvement? Setting goals. Okay, zombies set a goal. Absolutely. It's to eat your brain, but they set a goal. They don't give up, and resilience is a massive thing as a kids book creator as well. You've got to have that resilience. You are going to get rejected. There are going to be hard times. Have great focus, which these days especially is getting harder and harder for a lot of people to have that focus on their writing. And they're always shuffling towards their goal and always have those little steps and trying things and doing things. So I started, there's all these things that you can take from that but then applied in a way that's going to help people sort of, and so it would be, say, somebody set goals, but then I would just go through, and it doesn't go deep into it. Like, it's not one whole massive course on goal setting, but there's 10, 15 minutes on different things I do to set goals, and just, so I think it's just taking those things that, again, it's taking inspiration from wherever you can, and the way you look at things and going, well, maybe setting goals isn't going to work for everyone, but I'll give it a go. And just saying, here's a way that someone's done it that's worked for them. So, yeah, that was really fun to do that course, actually. I filmed that at a studio, and I had a green screen, so I've got like this massive zombie warehouse behind me. It was awesome fun. I loved it.
It leads me to ask the question, I'm into all this sort of self-help and self-improvement stuff as well, and listen to a lot of Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan and all those other people, and you do too, and you mentioned Tony Robbins. Do you think everyone has the ability to do what they do, or is it a personality type? Because I've noticed that you have all these people that go, you can do this, and this, but when you listen to it or you try and put it into place, you go, oh, I'm bored now, I'll move on. Is it just a personality type, or do you think anyone can be adapted to be that type, be that person?
As in the person who sort of...
I can, like Tim Ferriss is talking to me about how to be awesome. Can I be a Tim Ferriss? Or, is it just these people just do it and then knowing that no one else can replicate them because they're all different personalities?
Yeah, look, no, I think anyone can. I don't think everyone would want to be that person up front doing all that sort of thing. But in a way, that's what we're doing at schools as well, is we're that person in schools. We're inspiring those kids. We're getting them excited about reading. We're often giving little messages in our books and in our workshops and things. So we kind of, so I think anyone can, if you are taking things from these other people, but still being yourself. And so I think someone trying to be like Tony Robbins who's not like Tony Robbins. So Tim Ferriss, for example, I find when he talks, he's very low, almost low key and almost monotone in a way, the way he talks.
Yeah.
But he just asks really good questions. And the other people are the ones who are telling the stories. And so when he tells a story, I'm not necessarily as interested as when he's getting the stories out of other people. Whereas Tony Robbins is like, come on, let's go. And he's that big, loud.
And the thing, and he's about 7 foot tall. And I am 5'2", and so I could see him walking around going, "Oh my God!" But I suppose the thing is that what I'm getting at is it's the hard work. It's for me. I know that I rarely spend time watching car crashes on YouTube. I do watch a bit of telly at night, but the rest of the time I'm working on my product. I'm working on myself. I'm working on my books. I'm writing more books. I'm developing the author platform. I'm thinking about content that I'm going to create on social media. I'm trying to improve my Zoom talks, trying to get them organized, trying to develop other presentations. I'm emailing people out to get festival gigs and stuff, constantly dealing with my publisher and the promotion. All that is happening constantly. And I know that the more you do that, the more things pay off, because I've seen it myself. It's worked for me. I've been doing this for a few years now. So you start off small, you slowly chip away, things happen. But it is the amount of effort you put in. And I think that's a lot of these motivational people, they talk about it. And of course you watch one talk, wow. But they don't say that, they've spent 10 years working day and night for this. So do you think everyone has the ability to put in all the effort? I don't know.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's different for different people. Obviously, if you have kids or a job or this or whatever, or you're looking after someone, then there's obviously time constraints there. But I think there's time to do as much as you can do. And even if it is just at that stage, even if it's just finding an hour a day to write, then at that point, that's enough. And it's interesting with all the Tony Robbins and all that sort of thing. They always say, we know 95% of you won't be able to keep this up. Like we just know life gets in the way, but you do what you can and you hit those little goals that you can. And I agree with you. I think one of the things that sometimes is hard to hear for people is that basically, well, in a book I read by the guys who wrote Night at the Museum and on screenwriting, it's amazing. They said the only thing you can control is how hard you work. Everything else, whether your book gets accepted by a publisher, whether the kids like a school visit, it's out of your control. All you can control is what you do, what you write, what your presentation's like, how many emails you send out, and that's all you can control. And I agree. I think the amount, it's almost not a direct match, but the amount you do and the amount that happens, not always immediately, but I think it does correlate quite a lot. Because that's where your focus is, and that's where your energy is, and that's what you're wanting to put out there, and you're putting the effort in.
Yeah, where your focus goes, your energy goes, or
Exactly.
other way around, or whatever. But yeah, you're right. And
I know what you mean.
And I think even if we dig a little deeper, you go, what's your motivation? What is people's motivation? Not what their why is, but what's their motivation? Because the why is a different story. Motivation could be, I'm trying to build an author platform because I want to escape my day job, but I still want to earn money. Or the why could be, like say from my why is I want to deliver my messages to as many kids as possible in as many different ways. And yet still inspire parents and adults at the same time. But really my motivation is it's security, is money, but doing something that I really enjoy doing.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
So having the thing you love, but having that abundance in it as well. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive things, that you can have both. And I agree. I think the why and the motivation are very important as well. Because when things do get hard and they do, or you get rejected or whatever happens, you need something that's going to keep you coming back again, I think. And you need to have that, almost that knowledge of what your motivation and why is. And it's got to be that sort of solid thing that you can fall back and go, this is why I'm doing it. And even if it's a school visit where it's really, really hard, but one kid at the end comes up and goes, oh man, I just can't wait to read your books. And if your why is as you say, if your why is having your message reach kids, you've done it. You've done your why.
And look, we've all had our nightmare school visits, haven't we?
Yes.
I'm not going to, I've had one, and I'm not going to tell you about it. That'll be for another episode, I'm sure.
All right.
Okay. Now, where can people get access to your course? The course is called, is it Kids Book Creator Course?
Yep. So Kids Book Creator Capital. And so it's the kbcc.com. So
I'll put the web address under here. Done.
Yeah. So there's, the kbcc.com, and it's got the separate courses there, but it's also got like a little bundle now. So they're like $100 each, but you can get all of them for $150 in one and get access to everything. And my thing here is just to get it similar to you. I just want to get out to as many people as possible to see that it is possible to do this. And again, even if they get one or two things out of each one, even if it's not the whole lot, then that's awesome. That would make me very happy.
One of the things I do a presentation based on my Creative Mojo book there. And one person said at the end of the presentation, there was a lot, you spoke about a lot of stuff. We had a hard time trying to keep up. And then another course participant, she said, it doesn't matter. As long as if you take one thing away that can change your life, or one thing that you can implement, then it's been well worth it. And I'm like, great. Yeah. So now when I do the course next time, when I do the presentation, I always start it with, now we're going to throw a lot of stuff at you, but one thing's going to stick, and that one thing will be the one takeaway that you'll take. So with your course, you have a lot of stuff that all the participants can actually engage with and take away. But I'm sure there's going to be a few things that's going to really go, wow, now this is what I've actually really paid for the course for, to have this insight, to have that awareness to go, I can do that. And then that can lead to more money, more whatever, more confidence and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I do a lot of things on masterclass.com, which I love. And one of them was with R.L. Stine, who wrote all the Goosebumps books. And similar to that, like, it was really, really good. But then about 2 videos from the end, after about 20 videos, which were great, he gave a list of here's 20 story ideas for a horror story. And it's like, bang, gold.
That's it.
Like, so all the other stuff was great. That was just, you just go, okay, if I get nothing else.
And I'm going to give it away. Is that one of the great reasons the course, you actually have got an Excel spreadsheet that you give away in your course, so people can run their business, their author business. So
look, and I was going to say, I find that, and actually it's funny because I just did my tax with a new accountant, and he's like, well, we don't usually get a spreadsheet like this, because a lot of creative people, I'm really lucky that I did the engineering and I have a math side, which is just a genetic thing as much as anything from my dad, and my sister's got it as well.
I never got a maths gene. It died or got crushed, I think.
In grade 3 by your awful teacher.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of people do. They get scared of maths and they get scared of, and that running a business as a creative is not easy. So again, just want to say, well, here's a real, it's not a complicated spreadsheet. It's simple. It's just like, here's some income for different books. Here's an expenses. Here's a travel. Here's a stock sheet. And if you can fill it in, then you can do your monthlies. I find I do my BAS every quarter and it takes me 15 minutes. And because it's just all there. So it just makes everything.
And
so
it adds it all up as well. Your spreadsheet adds everything up. Yeah. And I think that's like, whoa, that game changer. I don't have to sit there with a calculator. How many books have I sold? How many visits did I do?
Yeah.
You know, how many kilometers did I drive? I must admit, I get my husband to do most of the admin stuff, but I do the book stock and the book sales and stuff. He does all the rest. But it is such a great spreadsheet. And I think a lot of people are going to go, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, great. I hope so. And because it is something that a lot of people don't do. And it means that you can spend the time on the stuff that you want to spend the time on rather than spending days trying to look through your invoices. Like, get an invoice, stick it in, done. 2 minutes and you can move on.
But you know what? That is such an integral part of the business of being a writer. And a lot of people go, I just want to be writing books. But no, you've got to be the one who's doing all the admin. You've got to do the book work. You've got to do the invoicing. You've got to chase up late paying clients. And you've got to do your stock. You've got to order stock. You've got to all that sort of jazz. You know, that's if you want to say write books, whatever. But you have got to do it all. And you've got to be an admin person. And you've got to be across it. And you've got to be accountable because you can't just, you know, when I first started, I had stuff everywhere. But I realized, no, if I want to take this seriously, I have to be organized. And Josh Langley and organized normally don't go together. But I had to make them come together.
See, Adam Wallace and organized do. I'm a Virgo. I'm like routine.
I'm a Pisces, so my head's all over.
Oh, that's my mum. Oh no, my mum is 2 years behind in her tax and she's got invoices everywhere. Pisces.
I must admit, I did have the luxury of running my own copywriting business. So I used to do the books for that before my husband took it over. But so I had that as the training sort of, okay, I've got to be accountable there. I've got to invoice clients and stuff like that. So that did set me up. But Jesus, it is hard work. But when you go, am I doing it for something that I want to be doing? Yes, I am. This is fun. I'm going to make it happen.
Absolutely. I heard a great thing the other day talking about, or even read it, I can't remember, basically saying, if you have your purpose or whatever, whatever it is, where you want to get to, is what you're doing helping you towards that goal? And even just doing that admin and stuff, it is, because it's keeping it organized to have more time to do this. It's helping you find space to generate the income, blah, blah, blah. If it's not, think about whether you should be doing it or you can spend less time on it. And certainly the admin stuff, there's ways to spend less time on it, whether it is getting someone else to do it or just setting up a spreadsheet. That especially when we're creative, really, for me, a lot of the goal of doing all of this is to have more time to write. And that's, in the end, it's all about that.
I totally agree. And it's one of the things that I find bizarre, I don't know whether you get this as well, that you come back from doing a day visit at a school, you've done 4 sessions, you're pumped. You're actually exhausted because you put your whole lot into it. And you come back and all you want to do is have a beer or a glass of wine or something like that. And then the next day you go, oh my God, I get to write an invoice for this. I get paid. People pay me to do that. I get to write an invoice. And that is like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that idea of getting paid for what you love doing. And again, going back to the start where people say it's totally possible. And to see that come in, and you've inspired kids or entertained kids or whatever you've done, and you get paid for it. This is win-win-win.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, we could talk forever and ever, Adam, but I think we'll wrap it up. And I think hopefully people have got a lot out of this conversation, and I think they'll get a lot when they go to your course and take that up. And thank you for doing that. Maybe in another episode, let's talk course building.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people are pivoting online more, and more courses are coming up. And it's such a big field. There's so many platforms now. LMS. Massive. Is it LMS? learning management systems. Yeah, so many of those things at the
Yeah.
moment. You know, I'm trying to pick which one I'm going to use, and I go, I don't
Yeah.
know. So
Man, it's really hard.
yeah, we'll make that another conversation. But Adam,
Yeah.
where can people get in contact with you?
So through the KBCC, otherwise my normal website is www.adam-wallace-books.com. I'll be down there. Or on Facebook is probably.
One last question. What's the most important thing for people to remember or to know about life?
Oh, wow. You're dropping the big one at the end.
I
That's a
asked
really
all
good
my
one.
guests this, so.
Yeah, I like it. I think for me, it's being yourself and finding your voice and what your thing is. And I know for me, for a long time, I was very sort of closed off, and I wouldn't act. I would have instincts, but I wouldn't follow those instincts for worry. I'm a massive people pleaser, so I'm trying to do that, but I wouldn't follow those instincts. And so I was always feeling like I was playing someone else. Being yourself and finding who you are and being comfortable with that, I think that's just massive.
Okay. That's a brilliant one to end on. Thank you very much, Adam. You enjoy, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you very much for watching the latest episode of Josh Langley Gets to Know. Got any questions? Whether you want to say whether you liked it, you didn't like the interview, and like my hair's too grey or something like that, post a comment below. I won't get upset. Okay. Now, gratuitous plug here. If you want to grab my books, Being You Is Enough, Okay to Feel the Way You Do, or Magnificent Mistakes, or all three, just go to my website at joshlangley.com.au, because it's about trying to change the world one book at a time, helping one kid just to feel good about who they are and feel good in their own skin. If we can just help one child, then they may help another child, then another one, then another one, and then that's how we slowly change the world. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next episode.